Hey guys, good evening, good afternoon. So I will be the trainer for today's tutorial, and I would like to welcome you on board on the behalf of Edureka. So today we are going to talk about some of the important strategies, how to build a production AI application, what's their secret sauce, and we are going to use some powerful reasoning capability of the different types of model, including GPT, Claude, etc. And then I would like to combine it with the practical applicability to use external tools, connections, and seamlessly using MCP, which is stand for Model Context Protocol. So by the end of this particular session, you will understand the core architecture of agentic AI, see it in action using no-code, low-code platform called N8N, and we will have a working demo for N8N. So let's get started. So the first and foremost thing, the agenda for today's tutorial. So there are a few commercials that we are going to work upon. First, we will build a solid foundation by understanding what exactly the agentic AI is all about. What are the core components of agentic AI system? Then we'll deep dive into the agentic AI workflow architecture, the blueprint on how these systems operate. What are the core components of an agentic AI system? We'll also get some hands-on as we learn about building autonomous workflows. And of course, we'll see AI agent in action with some powerful use cases. And we'll also talk about some career opportunity that are opening up in this space. Specifically, you might have already have some fair bit of idea, like what is the power of agentic AI? What are the different domain in which this particular applied AI and ML space is finding its way. Now, when you talk about agentic AI, the first question is why agentic AI matter? So this is another crucial question. Why are we so excited about agentic AI? So it's all come down to evolution, that how the systems are evaluated. So think about the early days. We have a system that could only provide fixed responses, like chatbot. If you ask something off script, it failed. Then come the rule-based automation. If so, basically they are condition-based. That means if certain condition is matching, then it will generate an output. Otherwise, they are generating some different output. So they are lexical-based chatbot. So it was powerful but limited in adaptability, right? So the condition changed, the rule will broke, and hence that our response from the chatbot or your workflow will become obsolete for a business. And then the generative AI came along with the ability to understand language and generate responses. So it was a huge leap, but still it was glorified, autocomplete, and it follow predefined workflow that we developed. And then there's no limitation in terms of use cases around it. Now we are entering the era of agentic AI. So agentic AI is different from Gen AI. Gen AI is a prompt-based setup where you're going to do prompt engineering and things like maybe retraining a open source model, not more than that. But when we talk about agentic AI, we are talking about systems now, system integration. So it make decision independently. It chooses action dynamically, and based on the goal, whatever we are going to provide, it learn from the context and complete the task autonomously. And it is not just telling you what you want to know, it also take actions to achieve the result. And this is where the paradigm has been usually shifted in the industry with the help of agentic AI workflows. So when we talk about pre-GPT era or pre-agentic era, there's something called RPA, so robot process automation, which is almost doing some sort of similar capability with agentic AI. But what's the difference between an RPA versus agentic AI? So the difference is RPA works on deterministic workflows, the workflows which are defined, predefined, where the context has been set up, and you do not require any kind of reasoning capabilities to run those workflows. But when you talk about agentic AI, it can work on non-deterministic process. That means it can able to plan, achieve results better than RPA because it will have a capability of reasoning from LLM. And that's where the agentic AI workflows are getting more and more demand in industry, right? Now, the question is, how has automation evolved? So what are the various stages of automation? Let's look at a practical example of this evolution. So you can see on my screen, it's a difference between a simple script and an intelligent agent, right? So this is the most basic automation that has been simply triggered. So let's say when you receive an email and it arrived to your mailbox, and by receiving the email, you send some notification or you are generating some plan out of it, right? So as the thing progress, you will see that Google has launched summarization capability. You can retype the email, etc. So summarizing the email and categorizes it with the topic. We just move forward instead of just doing all this simple type of capabilities. And now we can read the email, determine the urgency, schedule the meeting, create a task, and send the responses as well. So it's a single instruction that spawns a complex chain of reasoning and action. So we are moving from a simple tool to a digital employee, and that is what we mean by autonomous workflow. So let's assume that you have received an email notification from from someone from your client or from your workflow, right? And then from that workflow, you're trying to determine what are the set of customers should I reach out to with a distinguished criteria. The criteria could be there are some customers who is promising for you, prospecting for you. Some of the customers may be new for you, right? So you would like to generate a campaign. And for writing the campaign, you need to select the topic and the mail body. And on the top of it, you are going to generate some distinguished criteria by using agentic AI, right? So what is an agentic AI is all about, or AI agent is all about? So it's not just a script. It's not just a Python-based script. So you can think of it like a system which will have a purpose. So an AI agent is a system that can reason around a task, understand user goals, personas, retrieve the information, whatever is needed to fulfill the requirement, either from its memory or external databases. It will take action autonomously to achieve the objective, right? So that means you're going to use external tools like API, CRM system, SaaS-based systems, or even your personal emails, Outlook to get the things done. So an AI agent bridges the gap between the understanding the world and acting upon it. So it's like having a highly motivated, intelligent assistant who not only understand what you want, but also keep how to get it done. So that's the whole idea of autonomous agent. So autonomous is the word which has been there with AI agent because it is having a capability to fully replace the mundane work and tedious tasks on a day-to-day basis. Okay, now we'll talk about the components of the agentic AI. So we understand what is agentic AI. Now let's try to understand the core component of an agentic AI system. So every AI agent, no matter how simple, how complex they are built on these core concepts or component. So the first component is the input. So every AI agent starts with an input, a user goal or a request in a form of a simple instruction. And I will call this instruction as a user prompt. And then it will feed it to a large language model, which you can assume it like a brain of this whole ecosystem, right? So when we talk about the main component of agentic AI, core component orchestration, LLM is the biggest element of it, right? So it's like a brain. It uses this brain for reasoning, understanding the intent, and breaking down the task into oversimplified tasks. And also you have a power of reasoning to understand the intent of the query and breaking down the task. So to interact with the outside world, the agent use something called tools and API. So let's take an example. Let's say I have created some AI agent for, let's say I'm using some food booking app, just like Swiggy and Zomato, right? So let's say I'm creating a food delivery app or food booking app, right? And I have got series of AI agent. So I would like to use a dynamic pricing, which will increase or decrease the price of the food depending upon certain conditions. The condition can include traffic, the weather condition, the customer previous order itself. So I will have a customer profile that I will maintain in my database. And then based upon that, I will like to take a decision. whether to apply a coupon, whether to give him some percentage discount, etc. Right? So I need to use certain APIs to predict the real-time condition of a traffic, weather, etc. So the same way, AI agent will have access to these tools to make a decision, right? So let's say I'm creating an agentic AI system for food ordering app. I will use this APIs to integrate it as a part of my MCP tools. So to interact with the outside world, the agent use tools and APIs. It also has a memory system like we human have, right? We human use long memory, short memory to understand few things, correlate the things from the outside world, and take a decisions on the top of it. If you have already gone through the same sort of experiences, which could be a bad experiences, right? It will store in your long memory, and you will tend to not repeat that mistake again because you already know the consequence of doing the particular task. Same way, if I'm going to talk about memory system, it will help to recall past incident, user preferences, contextual data. And finally, it's all about execution, taking the output of reasoning and turning into a real world action. So this kind of architecture you can see on my screen for AI agent, it will help us to create a very profound self-improving agent. Now, what is self-improving agent? Self-improving agent, you can take an example of a Tesla Motors, self-driving cars, right? So recently, Tesla has demonstrated a great capabilities on autonomous vehicle. They are using a core AI agent and agentic reasoning to solve the problem, right? Similarly, you might have talk about Boston Robotics and these industry. They're also using AI agent softwares to train Boston Dynamics based agents, or I would say robots. You might have talked about financial chatbots. Chatbots are very, very smart these days, right? So what is the reasoning capability behind these chatbot? How did they know that a particular type of a transaction is suspicious and they are taking action to block the card on your behalf? Or they are reminding you about a particular stuff, or they are giving you a recommendation to where to invest. So all these things are getting smarter day by day because of the data plus tools. Now the question is, how does AI agent operates? So you can see that I have got a series of steps. In fact, it's a 5-step process. So a user request is made, the request flow to the AI agent. So the AI agent will work to understand the intent and determine the next action. That means the query itself is an input, which I am going to feed it to a AI agent. And this is where the MCP layer come into play. So this is the third layer. So MCP provide a standard way for the agent to communicate with the outside world. So it provide you a very critical setup to host your tools and APIs, right? And making sure that this layer will become an authorized, standardized communication layer across all external communication, right? So MCP provide a standard way for the agent to communicate with the outside world. It's a universal translator. Without it, you need to build a custom connector for every tool. So it's like a Type-C charging cable of your mobile device or your computer laptops. So Type-C, there's a purpose of Type-C. Type-C stands for Type-C connector, a general universal connector, right? And Type-C connector will provide access to all the devices universally. You need not to change the device type, or you need not to plug in any new chargers to charge any type of mobile phones. With the Type-C cable, you can do everything, data transfers or charging your mobile, etc. So same way, MCP layer provide a standardized communication protocol for AI agent. Then comes the fourth step, which is the tool that is select, and the agent will use action execution to interact with your business tools, just like your CRM, customer relationship manager, emails and databases, or even your big data technologies like Hive, Snowflake, BigQueries, right? You can able to trigger any sort of databases or any sort of document, be it HR policy, your company policy, employee policy, termination policies, anything you can able to feed it to the bot or AI agent, and they will able to understand the context. If any query come across, let's say you created a generic chatbot for your organization, And as a user, I log into that chatbot and asking certain policy related documents, or maybe certain, I'm new to an organization and I'm asking some policy related stuff to the chatbot. Or maybe I'm stuck in some debugging step in server and I'm feeling that I should ask question to a chatbot. It should give me an answer how to resolve that particular issue. Right. So that means these agents can able to understand the intent, and accordingly it will able to search the document or the history of web pages to perform the search, and then generate a steps or a sequence of steps that will help the user to resolve their day-to-day task, or self-performing that as well, right? So we are not just talking about chatbots here, we are talking about workflows now, right? So chatbot and workflow, there's a difference. Now results of those actions are then feedback to the feed to the memory and the feedback. That means we are looping the agent to learn and adjust its futuristic behavior as well. So this create a very powerful closed system loop on the basis of which you can able to perform the whole task. That means these agents can able to improve over a period of time with the help of this feedback. All right. So we understand that what are the different types of component architecture. Now I would like to introduce you to the two important toolkit that will help you to create agents with a no-code, low-code platform. And this platform can be supported as an open source or a closed source. That means you can buy a license as well, enterprise license as well for these two tools. So you might be thinking that sounds powerful, but I need to hardcore AI agents, or do I need to become an expert in programming to become an agentic AI engineer? So the answer is partially yes, you should know programming until unless you're not creating a custom workflow agents. If your if your organization permits to use these tools like n8n and Zapier, then of course there's a way that you can able to automate without knowing even single line of a code. So this sounds very powerful, but again, with a disclaimer that it depends upon your requirement, right? So there were no code and low code platform come in. So platform like n8n or Zapier AI are leading the charge. So they allow you to build these sophisticated workflow visually with the help of drag and drop features, or you can simply use plug and play. So n8n is a great for developer who want control. It's an open source. It allows for self-hosting the application and offer advanced customization with dedicated AI agent nodes. Zapier, on the other hand, is fantastic for speed and simplicity. So it has got powerful thousands of pre-built integrations and AI power automation that allow for a very quick deployment. So given a choice, if you have to look forward for either of the two tools, I will still recommend n8n is the most powerful tool. And these platforms are bridging or creating a bridge between a theoretical architecture and a practical deployable models. So basically the idea is to democratize the power of agentic AI using these two tools. So before moving on to the demo, let's try to understand what is MCP is all about. So as I mentioned, MCP is like a type C code for your devices. So we have mentioned MCP a few times. So let's try to decide a moment to it. So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. So as the name suggests, protocol, it's an open standard initiated by someone. So the MCP has been initiated by Anthropic, which is one of the provider for Claude model, right? So you might have heard about Anthropic, Claude, Sonnet, etc., Opus. So that solves a massive headache in AI development. So it provides a universal way for AI model to connect with external tools, API, and data sources in a trustworthy manner. So the mentions like a USB-C of AI, instead of having different cables for every devices, MCP provide a single standardized port, and this allows developers to create a single integration to the MCP standard, which they will work with all the MCP compliant servers. So it's a massive setup forward for interoperability and scalability criteria. So that is where you can see that I'm using MCP port for connecting to my Google Drive, which will have some historical PDF file system, audio, video files. Could be any format of the flat files, TXT, PDF, XML, XLS, HTML pages. So I can have metadata inside. So when I would like to generate some application, let's say I'm doing some personal application build up using agentic AI, then I might have to access these data. So I'm just going to connect the Google Drive, which will have my personal data or some files from the history. Similarly, I can able to connect to SQL, NoSQL databases, even big data I can able to connect with the help of an MCP. So you can see that I've got MCP server who's listening to these ports, and these are my applications. Similarly, I can able to use MCP to host my web APIs in a form of a Slack channel, GitHub, or internet search. Right, so I can able to do everything with the help of MCP server. All I have to do is I have to just invoke MCP client, and then I can bind the MCP server that will collate the to and fro communication with my tools. So these are my tools, right, that I'm going to use. Now the tools I'm going to use at runtime, right, depending upon my query or user request. So that means I will have some intent classification module that will able to understand that, hey, the user is asking about this particular data, and the data resides in this repository or this particular database. So that's the whole purpose of MCP. Now, the problem MCP solve here is without MCP, you are in a world of pain. So everything you want to connect to your AI system, you need to create a tool connectors. So every time you want your AI to connect to a new tool, you might need to build a custom integration. That's a high development effort. And it is hardly provide you any scalability criteria as well, because it is specific to a database or it is specific to an API or specific to a particular type of an application, right? And the maintenance of this whole become like a wiring problem for you, because every time when you're trying to connect a new app or new API, you need to write that particular connection. Now with MCP, it's a new world. It's a whole new world. You have a standard way to connect tools. You just get plug and play interactions or integrations. So that means your development is faster, your systems is much more scalable, MCP provide and remove those friction, letting you focus on the logic and the value, not the plumbing work that you need to do every time. And you can leave the plumbing work to MCP. Now the question is, how the AI agent connect to a business tool? So this is where the I would say rubber meets the road. So how does the AI agent actually use your business tool? So first, let's look at the tool themselves. We are talking about common digital infrastructure of modern companies. So everybody is using Gmails, Outlook, Team, or maybe Slack from IBM, CRM for doing HubSpot, Salesforce. These are the vendor for CRM, and project management tools like Jira, Confluence, Atlassian tools, documentations from Google Sheet, database, etc. And even if I have to talk about database, you have plenty of database, NoSQL, SQL, Oracle, right? Teradata, all these things. So when we talk about how the AI agent connect to a business tool, so imagine with the help of a workflow. So imagine a customer email arrived to your input or mailbox, and assume that you already have AI agents who analyze this kind of request. So the AI agent will analyze the request, understand the sentiment and the urgency and the intent of that email. The MCP identify the required tools to fulfill that intent. Be it a simple question from the customer, he's asking for some maybe some clarifications, right? But when you're writing a clarification using an AI agent, you have to follow some policies. So the MCP identify the required tool to fulfill that intent. If it is a support request, the agent use MCP to access the CRM. It then create a support ticket in Jira on your help desk. And then the customer is automatically updated with an acknowledgement email. And the task is completed automatically within the time. So you need not to maintain the whole army of first line of defense, FLU, frontline unit executive, who's taking the phone calls and just doing an entry work to open a ticket, close a ticket. So you can replace those first line defense team entirely. Right? So it's a big dollar saving for every organization, and they are trying to use AI agent to automate. So the task is completed with the agent possibly even looking for a knowledge-based article to provide an immediate solution to help customer as well. Right? So this is not a future dream I'm talking about. It's already happening. It's a workflow you can build today with the help of the technologies that is available. Now let's talk about the frameworks. So when we talk about the frameworks to build an AI, or I would say to build a agentic AI system, so you should have some 10 frameworks. Now the frameworks that I'm going to talk about here is moving from theory to practical. So let's look at the framework for building this app. The first and foremost thing, what you need to do is you need to define a goal. So when you're solving any AI agentic or agentic AI framework or applying any or creating any solution to it, you need to think of this 6 step. So 6 step process. The first process is you need to define your goal very clearly. How will you define your goal? So you need to understand what is the ultimate business outcome you want to achieve. Let's say decreasing the customer churn, increasing the sales, or decreasing the turnaround time for incidents, etc. So there are different goals that you would like to make. That's the reason you are choosing automation. Second is you need to define the decision criteria. Identify the inputs. What are the data sources that you should use? So you should understand what sort of data I should use. It could be a email, forms, previous chat, document, databases, policy document, any internet search, and the list are endless, right? You can think of unstructured, structured, both sort of data to produce inputs. The third step is defining a decision. What choices must the agent make to achieve the goal? For example, is it a high priority led decision-making system, or should it be escalated to someone depending upon your SLA or depending upon your decision criterias, you need to define the boundaries. Then you need to define the tools to connect. So first you identify the source system input that I'm going to use these input. Then you're going to connect to a tools, right? So tool include your database, CRM, ERP, email, calendars, etc. So once you connect to a tool, then you need to define the action. What is action will the agent take? For example, create, update, notify, escalate. And last but not the least, you would like to know how will you track the performance and make the whole workflow optimal or running optimal all the time. And that is called AI ops. That means you need to monitor and control and use some governance frameworks on the top of it, including your responsible AI framework. Right? So without these frameworks, none of your agentic AI system or ecosystem will able to productionize because every organization use certain criteria to qualify the models in production. Right? So you need to ensure that the qualifying criteria for your model should be intact. Now let's try to bring this use case to productivity. So there are a few examples. Let's take an example of an executive assistant. So let's take an example of this workflow. So let's say you have created an AI executive assistant, which will help you to perform email management, meeting schedule. It will able to automatically schedule the meeting based upon the emails. It will able to give you very proper task priority at your fingertip. It will give you a good amount of tools that can help you to follow up the reminders for meeting or follow up from the previous emails. That means, let's say you're working as a customer relationship manager in a bank or in a telecom company, and as a manager, you need to manage multiple sort of customer concerns, etc., to make their life easy and better. right? So here the workflow may look like. So you have an incoming email that arrived to your executive box inbox. The agent will read this. The agentic AI categorize the email, identify it's a request or a meeting for a meeting. It determines the urgency of response based on the sender and the context. It checks the executive calendar and schedules a meeting for the suggested time. It creates a task for the executive, like preparing for the meeting, sending the response on timely manner, escalate if needed, and it draft a response confirming the meeting and the sender. It's sent to a sender, CC the sender, and finally it update the calendar with all the meeting details. So all of this happening without the executive need. So it does not require the attention of the executive. All this thing can be done by the agents. So the workflow example, a very simple workflow example, how to plan your day. Second example could be the AI sales agent. Now let's look into the powerful use case for sales team, which can lead to qualifications and sales support. And here the goal is to ensure that no lead is left unattended and that sales representative are spending their time on the hottest prospective. So when a new lead arrives, the AI agent analyzes the lead priority and research the company information from the web and the internal databases. So that's the first thing he's going to do. It then scores the lead quality based on the fit and intent, and then it assigns the priority and the schedules for a sales call in the representative calendar. And then it creates a kind of a CRM entry with all the research data and call details. Finally, send a prioritized outreach to the lead, referring their company, making the initial contract much more effective. So this automation grunt work can help sales team to close the deals with the client automatically, just like LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn keep on giving you different sort of messages from different vendors. How did they know that you're keen to explore some cloud solution, right? So that's the whole AI agent is working behind LinkedIn. You're applying for a job or your resume is highlighted based upon some parameters. So they are claiming that if you paid for the services, your resume will boost up. That means they are going to apply AI agents on your job hunting criterias. It will target those companies which you are willing to work, right? Depending upon different types of inputs. Now we'll talk about the third type of an agent, which is customer support agent. So customer support agent, that means it will have a customer query in a form of a CRM or in a form of an email. It can come from different system, by the way, customer query, right? You can have a chat with the customer. You can have a phone logs from the customers that assume that your company has automated all the different sources, including the phone logs. So customer query arrive via email, chat, phone logs, CRM, etc. The agent will perform the intent detection to understand what a customer need help with. It then search the knowledge base for relevant solution. It can skim through the policies, different sort of previous satisfied criteria, etc. And then it generate a response with a solution. If it is can resolve the issue, it mark the ticket as closed. If it can't, that means it will require some human approvals. It will escalate to the human agent, passing all along with the context. And then it update the ticket throughout the process. Finally, it collect the feedback to improve its own performance. So this will provide 24/7 support, instant responses to your customer queries, and it will significantly reduce the burden on your human support team. Now, I would like to talk about one important criteria on agentic AI system design, which is called memory planning and multi-agentic system. Now we are moving into an advanced territory here. So to build a trust robust agent, we need to move beyond a simple prompt and responsible cycles. So it involves three key components. The first component is the memory, agentic memory. So an agent need memory to store user preferences, conversational histories, business context. It needs to remember who you are and what you have previously discussed. Similar to your Claude agent, you might be using Claude or GPT model, and you might be seeing that sometimes you will get some over personalized response from GPT because it memorized your previous history. Similarly, a planning agent, an agent need to break down large goals into a small or decompose into a smaller manageable task. So let's say if the goal is to launch a marketing campaign, the agent need to plan tasks like creating a landing page, write an email, schedule a social post, etc., and then make it all the way. The third type of, or I would say the third key concept is called multi-agentic system. So sometimes one agent isn't enough because if you are going to use one agent for all the tasks, it will become more complex to debug, more complex to handle memories and planning and routing criteria. So your code will become more monolithic. I mean, you cannot able to debug it, or even if you're maintaining the code in a good state with a single agent, it will fail drastically to capture some exceptions at runtime. So that is where you require multi-agent, each with a specific role, collaboration on complex tasks, and you could deal with multiple swarms of agent, not just one agent, but you will have a swarms of agent like researcher, sales, finance agent, which can manage budget all working together. Sales agent can qualify leads and will interact with the customer. Research agent will gather the data from internet. Now the question is where AI or AI agent is creating the value. So as I mentioned, we are living in the fourth year of AI agent, I would say. It's all started in 2022, early 2022, 23, and then this is the fourth year. So this is not just a technology, it's not a theoretical anymore. It's created a massive value across industry. So you might have seen finance is using it for fraud detection, loan processing, KYC, maker and checker, personalized financial advisory like trading desk, treasuries. So they are all using agentic AI. They are using heavily agentic AI solution for regulatory space, solving and designing the policy for a company or for a bank, solving customer interaction issues on timely manner, increasing the efficacy of code writers, maintaining the PII sensitive data much more in a controlled manner. So this is all application of financial and banking, all the way from customer onboarding to customer offboarding, right? So you will find plenty of AI use cases, agentic AI use cases in a bank. Healthcare, they are using for appointment management, patient support, analyzing the medical records, or scheduling a timely escalation to some of the patients, right? If you have a record, you have a proper communication with the with the agents. It can also work like a initial analyzer to understand your problems and issues and then suggest you the best doctor within your vicinity and within your locality. Retail, on the other hand, are using AI agent for personalization recommendation, product discovery, SEO, search optimization. They are using for campaigning, marketing, ad revenue optimization. So there are plenty of use cases in retail as well. You name them, you will find a lot of agentic AI use cases in retail. HR, I mean, HR is everywhere. HR is also automated for resume screening, employment onboarding. You really do not require HRs these days to be hired because there are a lot of things can be done by AI agent, right? Right from resume screening all the way to employment onboarding. General operation for automating the business process and orchestrating the complex workflows, they're all led by agentic AI. So you can automate the business process like email campaigning, or you would like to schedule some task for extracting the data and generating the report. you can do operational much faster. One of the classical example is SLA management by cloud team or SLA management by your first line of defense team, the support staff. So previously there's an army of support which is doing 24 cross 7 operations, but these days we really do not require that much human intensive criteria because there's a huge amount of automation which has been in place. All right, so let's move on to the demo. So first and the foremost demo that we're going to use is with NA10. So NA10 is the tool that you require to create. And I will show you one demo that will have a series of agents. You can see on my screen, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 agents. They're analyst, critic, refiner, risk evaluator, and finalizer. So it will generate some sort of reports on the top of my requirement. So I will show you how to create this agent. But before that, let's look into this platform. So first and foremost thing, you need to create uh, and register your account under NA10. So you need to log into NA10 and then you will have the what do you call, you will have the full control on developing this. So the link that you should use is you should go to this website and sign in with your credentials and it will make you through. The second thing that I would like to talk about is, yeah, it will give you 14 days trial for free and you can create some limited workflow without paid version. The second thing that you need to register for is you need to go to OpenAI API website. This is for Anthropic. This is for, sorry, GPT. And then you need to create your credential here and go to the settings. And then find the API key and create this API key. So this is a paid version of API key. So I can simply use my API key on a paid version. So I have an account and I'm going to use this account to work upon. So this is a pay-as-you-go account. So I have some credit. So I can use this credit to run LLMs. And I have different types of LLMs that I can use. So you can check the billing on OpenAI API key, and it will give you the menu card of all the model pricing within that. So you can see the pricing for each. Now, second provision is you can also use some open source model like Grok. Somehow I'm not sure why it is restricting me, but I'm getting blocked by Grok. I don't know why. This is a free way that you can able to use an LLM API. So it provide you high speed, cost efficient LLM model inferences like Llama 3 to power reasoning. And it will also give you certain criteria to refine your models, etc. Now the demo that we are going to have is we are going to create an A10 workflow orchestration, a multiple agentic AI workflow orchestration that will help you to improve the technical content through a controlled feedback loop. So in this demonstration, we are going to develop an internal system that will simulate via webhook. The webhook received a draft document, pass it through the three specialized agent and return a refined version where we will get a structured API response. So the workflow demonstrate how a simple draft can be reviewed, improved, evaluated, and repeatedly refined until either the evaluation agent approve it or maximize the iteration limit is reached. So there are two things that we require to operate. One is the LLM, which I am giving you two options. Either you go with OpenAI or Grok. Now, the output of this demonstration is to provide you an understanding on NA10 and the core features of NA10. And I will give you some demonstration how to create these elements in NA10 and how can we orchestrate the multi-agentic system, see how specialized AI agent collaborate inside a workflow. Also, we learn what is webhook and how can we simulate an internal API-driven enterprise system capabilities using this. So there are two ways that you can able to run NA10. One is your self-hosted environment. For that, you need to install a Docker. So if you would like to look into the video, you can use the second version once your cloud commercial get exhausted. Then you can go for this video. Otherwise, you can continue to use this trial for 14 days. So you can see there's a panel which will keep a track on my execution and give me 1,000 execution only. So I can just use 1,000 execution workflows at max. Now let me just start this from the scratch and then we'll see each and every component. So let me go back. So I will say new workflow. So this will give you the blank screen like this. Now you will see two options. One is add the first step or build with AI. Or the third option is you can also upload it from the JSON files. So since I'm using a trial version, so I will first make sure that I have got a very clear depictions on what I'm going to do. So since I'm using a trial version, so I will first add an OpenAI model. So this is my API, which I already passed. So this is working. So it's just connecting. So I've copied the API from here. So this is connection successful. I can retry this to see if it is still working. This is working. So I can just say, this is fine. I registered the OpenAI basic LLM. Okay, so I will first rename the workflow. I will give some fancy name that first workflow or in NA10. So I will say first workflow NA10. It's a multi-agentic system that I'm designing. Now there are several elements that I'm going to use. The first element that I'm going to create is a webhook. Now when we talk about webhook, the purpose of webhook, let me explain what is webhook node first of all. Then we'll move on to this implementation part. So when you say webhook in NA10, so it's a concept that we're going to use to trigger a node that will allow you to access that to send a real-time data to your NA10 workflow. So webhook is less like you can assume it like a connector, which will provide you an access to external apps. So it expose a custom URL, enabling you to build custom API endpoint, which may receive instant updates or trigger workflow from services without dedicated NA10 integration. So that's the whole purpose of webhook. Now what we are going to do is we will use different criterias to configure the webhook entry point. So I will say I would like to add a webhook. It will give me this option. And then I've got several uh, ways to do it. So I will use a post method. I will say that I have a path which I'm going to authenticate and I will use none. Response is immediate. So I will keep this as it is. Now I will add several parameters to it. The first parameter is okay. So this will create my webhook. So as you can see that I'm just keeping it simple and I'm not changing any setting either. So I've got a parameter and got the setting, right? So these are two options that you're going to have. Now in the first option, what I'm going to do is I will simply say that, one second, let me quickly switch off this part because I think this is creating problem. Let me shut down two workflows. I think I cannot run simultaneously. 1 second. Yeah, so we will configure this as a post method. I will set up the path here and I will say it's just a content refinement. So I will just keep it as content refinement. Authentication, I will keep it as no. And then the other criteria, I will just say use webhook or using respond to webhook node. I will explain what does that mean. And then I will simply plug in this feature and then save this. So it will create a webhook here in my canvas. So this is called canvas tool. Let me just extend this. Now I will go back. I will add the first initialization state. I will add initialization state. Yeah. So I will add a edit field here. So I will say edit field set. So the purpose of edit field set, so this will be using for manual mapping. So I will add 6 conditions to it. And these conditions will help me to determine the content types and the parameter that I would like to retrieve. So I'm keeping it as a manual. So I will say manual mapping and I will add the 6 field to it, each with a different criteria. So the first criteria that I'm going to use is the content. So this is the content from the document. The type of document that I'm going to host will be mostly some typically a file, and I will use the file to maintain the context by using JSON based responses. So I will just say the type of content will be JSON. I will add some more fields, document type, and I will keep it as a string. And this is my document type. I will add the third parameter as maximum iteration. We'll share this tab with you so that you can just follow and then create your first agent. And I'm keeping the first maximum iteration as this. I will also add iteration as a number. Maximum iteration should also be a number. So I will change this. I will make this as a number, keeping the default value as 0. Then I will add one Boolean flag called approve, reject, which will help me to trigger the human workflows. And I will say this as Boolean. And the value default value is false. I will add the feedback history as an array, just in case if I have to maintain multiple communication. So I will keep it as a placeholder. So I will say this is an array, which is an empty array. So I will just store this. It will create an edit fields on my canvas. Now, the third thing that I would like to do here is I would like to use what is the use case we are addressing. So as I mentioned, the use case is just read this document. This is the use case. Okay. So now we move on to the loop over the items. That means I need to create another node that will loop over to the items. And the loop over the items means I would like to use the condition loop over the items. So I will say loop over the item. And add it here. So I still set up the batch size as 1. And under option, I will disable the reset. Uh, and I will turn on this reset. And it has two output, done. And loop at the bottom. So this is one I'm going to add. Then I'm also going to run code parse element. So I will add it. And I will choose the method language as JavaScript. And I will add the code Okay, now I'm going to add a three method. So this is just a criteria to select the input. So you can assume it like a pipeline, right? Where it will extract the data from some outside and then it will feed it to the agents. Now I'm going to write the agent. So till this point of time, we haven't talked about agents. We just talked about how to parse the data, which field to be extract, right? What attribute we should use to extract from this workflow, right? So till now, we just talk about data preparation, nothing else. Now the actual agents are coming into play now. So I'm going to add the agents. So I will have a series of agents. So I will use maybe 3 or 5 agents to demonstrate. So let me first show you how to create an agents. So to create the agents, again, you need to click on, let me show you the document. I mean, it's all documented, so you can just take a reference. So to create an agent, you need to go to this step, configure the critic agent. So we have got critic agent. The second agent that we are going to use is refiner agent. The third agent that we are going to use is evaluator agent. So each agent will have their own system prompts, right? So these are system prompt that I'm going to use, user message and system prompts, right? That means it will give you a responsibility about what agents are going to do on the top of the data that you supply, right? So it will give you some bit of idea like what agents are doing and what exactly the parameters that they have in terms of data management, memory management, etc. So we are going to simply use an add the AI agent. So I will say click on agent, click the agent, and this will be the parameters that you're going to use. So I will name this agent as, let's say, critic agent, critic AI. It will say critic AI. And then I've got a bunch of criterias. So I've got a first criteria, which is called user message. So I will just use the user message and put it inside this box, which is becoming my user prompt. Now let me show you the user prompt that I'm going to plug into this agent. So in this user prompt, I'm just saying analyze the following technical documentation, which came from the webhook, and identify the issue in terms of clarity, missing step, risk, ambiguity, and operational completeness. Return the output as bullet point, be specific and practical, and generate a response with these criteria. Also, I'm going to add an optional system message which says that you're a strict technical reviewer. So this is a role that I'm assigning to the agent, or work like an IT operation manager, be precise, critical, and structural in your response. Do not override, document, and use only actionable feedback. So this is what we are giving to a system prompt. So let me quickly copy this and put it here. So to add a system prompt, you need to click on system message, and here you will able to write your system prompt. Now I can close this. So you can see that it's added the critic agent and it is having the three interface chat memory. And for creating a chat memory, I need to use OpenAI. So I will use OpenAI chat model and then I will use GPT-4o connections. Now I can add more agents. The second agent that I'm going to use is refiner. So I will say AI agent, which is refiner. And the node name is refiner. And I will like to use the user message again. And I'm going to give an instruction to refiner. and then a chat model, which is an OpenAI chat model again. And I will also add third agent, which is my, I would call it as evaluator. So I will say define below, and then you will get this system prompt. And then I will add, there's no need to add, maybe I can add the system prompt. Okay, now I can add some conditions and other loops as well on the top of this agent, and then it will able to work. So this execution has been compiled. So I will show you the method how we are compiling this whole setup and what are the different types of criteria on which these agents are going to work upon. So first, let me re-explain what we have done so far. So we have created a series of agents. So let's assume that you're working for some documentation, right? Because every time when you're working in any ITSM, IT service management, you need to create a handover document. Handover document talks about what are the sequence of steps that you have taken to fix certain issues that you face. So it's all well written, right? So similarly, can we agent do the same stuff as human? Let's say if I'm creating an ITSM, IT service management, or you can simply consider to be like a first line defense team, first line team who is solving or support team who's solving the issue on the ground. So I should have some ways to provide the information to the agent that this is the issue type. Let's say it could be a server side issue or database side issue or any other type of issue which creates some sort of downtime in the application. And your idea is to reduce this downtime. So when you're reducing the downtime, you should follow the procedures to tackle this, right? So assume that I'm going to create a runbook automation with the help of these AI agents, right? So I've got a series of analyst, critic, refiner, reviewer, and finalizer, which will do a systematic assessment on my task. The task that I'm using here is to create a runbook automation. I will give him some sort of example, some scenario as an input, explain what's the implication, what's the type of issue, etc. And then this will able to give me the sequence of steps that I should follow to, or maybe agent will follow to subsidize this. The first and the foremost thing is you can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 nice agents. So again, let's try to revisit what is inside these agents. So the first agent is analyst. Let me remove this. So the first agent is analyst. So the analyst agent will use this instruction. So when you're writing a system message, you're writing an instruction. And the second instruction that I'm writing is a document type. That means I'm expecting some sort of document to be passed, and then it will do some sort of manipulation on the top of document to understand it bit. And then after that, it will follow this instruction. So here I'm saying that you're a document analyst for IT operation. Given a draft and its document type, produce the structure information, a product grade version that must contain a flag. What is missing? Output in should be in concise, structure, checklist manner. Do not rewrite the document. I mean, do not copy paste, right? Second agent that I'm using is a critic. So the name suggests critic. So it is trying to review. You're a strict technical reviewer for IT operation. Be critical precise and structural, list the actionable problem only, do not rewrite. When let me show an example. Let's say I'm using a DeepSeek model. So I'm free to write anything in DeepSeek, right? I'm free to write anything on DeepSeek. I can simply say that do a deep research on your own architecture, how you have built. So it will give me the deep architecture on DeepSeek R2 models, and it is starting talking about the core innovations and things that has been used. So I can write anything here, but the way that it is generating the response behind the scene, they are using system prompts, and I don't have access to system prompt. Are you using system prompts as a backend? So the answer is yes. Right, so that means every AI agents or every LLM model is using some sort of instruction. And these instruction is generally called system prompt. And this is a user prompt that you can change at any point of time, just like the message I'm changing. Right, so that means system prompts are determined, predetermined. The third agent that I'm using is a refiner, which will accept the third, so it will behave like a senior technical writer for IT operation. It will rewrite a draft into clean structure, complete production ready. So you can see that at every stages, I'm giving some additional responsibility to the agents. So they are not one agent, by the way. So they are using one model, but they are not one agent. So I'm reusing the model with different agents. It's like everybody have laptops, right? Everybody have internet. So every employees are not equal in the company. It depends upon what role you're serving in the company, right? It depends upon what position you held, what experience that you carry, what value you create. So all these things are defined. The job description is defined, right? For you, me, everyone. But how well we are doing in the job, that is a different task. But the job criteria are defined, right? The same way I'm defining the criteria for agent that this should work in this manner. The reviewer will do a review analysis. So you are an operational risk compliance reviewer for IT runbook and change documentation, identify the residual risk and safety ownership gaps, focus on rollback safety. So that means this agent will add these parameter, these dimension to my runbook. So the idea is I'm going to create a book, one run book with a set of events. And the run book should be describing these characteristics. It should be elaborative, right? It should follow some sort of best practices to write, right? With the help of AI agent. If I'm going to assign one agent to do every work, then it will start hallucinating. It will start missing the facts and consistency in the response. And that's the whole idea that we are using a series of agents. So that if one agent is going haywire or it is not performing well, I will able to fine tune it. I need not to fine tune the full agents, right? I just need to pinpoint that agent and fine tune it. It's like I'm putting this agent under performance management reviews and PMP program and then making sure that it should work collaboratively, right? So same way I'm treating this agent here. The finalizer agent I'm having is going to produce, and it is a lead technical writer producing the final production ready document, incorporate the risk and compliance note into the document, output only the final document fully formatted and ready to publish. That means I have got the critic sits over here, refiner, which is working with critic on their comments. Analyst job is to search the overview of runbook. It may make mistake. The idea is the critic should handle the mistakes from analyst and it should ask refiner to improve the analyst write-ups. And then the risk reviewer will look for the overall stages. And then finalizer will generate a cumulative summary of everything. That means it's a loop. I'm running agents in a loop, right? So these loops that I'm using is basically for the purpose of creating a refined document, right? So that's the whole idea. Now I'm going to compile this workflow. So to compile this workflow, I will simply say execute workflow, and then I will click on this execution button. So let me quickly click this execution button. So you can see it start compiling each agents. And then it start formatting the output. So I will open a chat interface to provide a task because this is becoming my system now. I can use this system. I can publish this as well. I will use the system just now for chat interface. So I will give them one task that I would like to create a run book. Purpose is to deploy the app. Step should have the full details about how to run, check if it is worked. If it is not working, then what are the different things and whom to reach out if there's a further human involvement required. So I was just given a task. So you can see that start calling the sequence of agents. And also I can see the token cost involved in executing this. And each agents are start working like a sequential agents. Each of them are completing their task. Is go to refiner, to reviewer, and then the finalizer and the format output. So reviewer is reviewing the generated output. And it should run a workbook. So you can see that how nicely it is generating a run book. Very detailed, very well written. And you can see the workbook have all the sections that are required, right? And then expected outcomes and stuff like that. So this is a very detailed workbook that I've created, right? So this is one way to automate a task. I can also create an agent who can able to perform this task. So this is a planner agent. Now I can create an executor agent as well, which will able to execute this task in production or non-prod environment as well, so that I can able to remove any human dependencies, right, on the system in configuration. All right, so this is a demo. So, so the code will be in JSON format. So what you need to do is there are two ways that you can configure this code. One is the manual way that I showed to you, that each and every building block you need to create and then work upon it. The second way that you can able to use this code is you just need to click on this new workflow, name your workflow to any arbitrary name. You can say my first workflow. You need to go to this three dots and say import from file. And once you click on in the file, you just need to double click on JSON. It will create an automatic workflow. Only the fix that you need to make is you can see that there's a red dot with a warning sign, which is ChatGPT models. So you need to configure your own API. I cannot share my API key because it is confidential. So you need to create your own grok key or API key and go to create new credential and put it your API key here. If you're using OpenAI, if you're using Grok, then you have to replace this model with Grok. I can say Grok chat model. Now I have to pass on the credential for Grok here. Set up your credential. then you can put up the 𝐸𝐸 API here, key here. That's the only thing that you require to change. Then these errors will be reduced. You just need to click on workflow, and then rest of the stuff will automatically work for you. Thank you.